Hey, this is LOA Today, the Law of Attraction show. Welcome to LOA Today. My name is Walt Thiessen. Today is Friday, the 25th of January, 2013. With me today is Maha Youssuf. She is the founder and managing director of MuslimTribune.org, and she has authored and done research on online and social media and has hundreds of published works covering a variety of fields, primarily related to Islam, spirituality, and Middle Eastern culture. And I contacted her originally because she authored an article in May, I believe, of 2011 entitled The Law of Attraction and Islamic Perspective. And given the fact that as we have a worldwide audience and we have a number of Muslims in our audience, it seemed appropriate. Well, let's talk about it from an Islamic perspective. So, Maha, welcome to the program.
Welcome, Walt. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Thanks for contacting me to join in the LOA today. And it's a good chance to present the Islamic view of the matter.
Excellent. Well, that's why we wanted you here. Well, first of all, what motivated you to, I guess this all started with you picking up the book, The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. What made you decide to pick up that book, and what made you decide to write about it?
Well, actually, this goes back to 2008 when I was asked to write an article about it in some magazine in Egypt that offers content in English. And so I had to buy the book to get an idea about it, to actually provide an objective review of it. So the minute I read it, it captured my attention, especially that back then it triggered a very heated debate over the notion of the law of attraction and whether it fits in the Islamic perception of life and some creedal matters, or whether it contradicts it. So I read it with very accurate attention to its details, and actually I think it's a matter that has to do with the approach of living more than a universal law or some physical or direct absolute law that has to be incorporated into our lives.
Okay. Well, let's go a little bit then into the particulars, especially with related to your religion, Islam. What did you find was similar, and where did you find the differences were?
Well, actually, what amazed me is that, sorry, I have a very weak voice these days.
That's all right. Take your time.
I found more similarities between the Islamic thinking and perception of life and the law of attraction more than the differences. And perhaps the differences are a bit related to some creedal matters or creedal beliefs. For example, the law of attraction pertains that what you think about, you bring about. I believe that if we thought of it as an approach or as an attitude, it fits perfectly well with the Islamic character, the Islamic perception, and understanding and belief in Allah's power and superpower. However, I cannot really relate it to some physical law that you can expect direct results from. I mean, Islam encourages hope and encourages going positively about your plans and projects, and having ultimate trust in Allah that He will help you through and that He will choose what's best for you. However, Muslims, or some Muslims to be precise, thought that it's atheist and that that the law pertains that we are the creators of our destiny. And this I don't think is true. I mean, if I thought that someone will come in this minute, it doesn't mean that he will actually come in. But if I worked and worked hard to achieve my dreams and go about my plans positively, knowing and having trust in God that He will help me through, then definitely this is a positive and highly encouraged approach in Islam. So that's how I see there are great similarities between the law of attraction, and there's nothing there's no reason to reject it in this view. However, I cannot say that I have to relate the whole matter to some absolute universal power. for us Muslims, or in Islam, that universal power is the figure of Allah, the figure of God. So we have a superpower that we can name it, and we can actually identify it, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
What?
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So when it comes to the approach and the belief that we have to adopt a positive way of thinking in life, yes, this is absolutely an agreeable matter and very encouraged in Islam.
Can you tell us whether or not you have actually actively tried to apply the concept in your life in any way, or is it just sort of a general principle of positive thinking that you like to follow?
No, actually. I think I have always been applying the law of attraction even before reading about it.
Okay.
And you will be astonished if I gave you examples from the Islamic literature that highlights the law of attraction perhaps in different wording.
Well,
for example, there is a divine or a divine saying of the Prophet related on behalf of Allah, which we identify as a Qudsi hadith, that says, Allah says that I am as my servant thinks of me. So if I thought that Allah will fail me, and that I have very weak trust in Allah, then He will not provide me with the support I need, and that He will prove my thinking correct. Whereas if I thought that Allah will support me and provide me with all the aid and care I need, and went about my plans positively and eagerly and enthusiastically, He will definitely prove my thinking of Him correct.
Okay. Well, that certainly sounds like the law of attraction in action.
Perhaps it's put differently, and it's related to Allah, not just a universal power or a universal law as it's presented in The Secret, the book, but conceptually it's the same.
I think it is the same. I'm not even sure there's all that much of a difference where the idea of the universe is concerned. I don't know, maybe, obviously I don't know much about Islam, so forgive my ignorance if I say something that is just not accurate, but my view of God is that, and of the universe, is that the universe is a part of God. I mean, it's not like God is separate from the universe. It's not like God is separate from us. We're all a part of it. Now, maybe that's not the way Islam looks at it. I don't know, but to me,
it's definitely different, because Islam promotes the thinking that the universe is the creation of Allah.
Well, sure.
And Allah pours into this universe His power and His will. But the thing is, why Allah says that we have to adopt a positive way of thinking of Him is that it's actually an encouragement to go about any plan or any project without this sense of skepticism that pulls us down.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, there's certainly similarity.
There are great similarities when you come to think of it.
Yeah, there definitely are.
Yeah.
Again, this is perhaps another case where my knowledge of Islam being so limited, I could be wrong, but my understanding is that there are a number of holy books within Islam, and that the Bible is actually considered a holy book. Is that correct?
Can you repeat that again, please?
My understanding is that there are a number of holy books within the Islamic faith, and that one of the holy books is the Bible, the Christian Bible. I don't know if that's correct, but I've heard that it is. Is it true?
No. Let me put this clear. Islam has only one divine book, that's the Quran.
Okay.
However, Islam believes in Jesus' Bible and in the Torah. So we believe, it's part of our faith to believe in all the scriptures and to believe in all the prophets that were sent by Allah.
Okay.
So, but our divine book, if this is your question, it's just the Quran.
Okay, so the Bible is not a part of Islam. But
no.
I don't quite understand what role it plays then, if it's not a part of it.
Well, surely you will have a great similarities, because if we agree that the source is one, the source of Jesus' Bible is the teachings of Allah, and Quran, it's the revelation coming upon the Prophet, peace be upon him, from Allah, then we surely agree that there are great similarities between the two.
Okay, all right. So it's more along the lines of a reference?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
It's just, it has to do with some misunderstanding regarding what's the whole and what's the part, what's related and what's not related.
And certainly those kinds of misunderstandings have been with us for generations. There's no doubt about
Generations. And yeah, we have a good homework to do.
Yes, we always have homework.
Yeah. So that's why I'm really interested in this opportunity you gave me, because it's a good chance to discuss matters and establish a common ground to discuss creedal beliefs and freedom matters that have been at the heart of great misconceptions that date back to ages.
You know, one thing that you mentioned as you were describing your first experience and first introduction to the law of attraction as it was presented in The Secret is that you noted that when you try to attract something, it doesn't show up right away, which actually is very consistent with what The Secret and other similar literature have taught over the years. It can actually take quite some time before something manifests, and a lot of it has to do with, as you say, whether or not you're holding your faith, whether or not you're holding to your belief that the support will be there, and the more that one is able to hold one's belief, the more likely and the quicker that things are going to happen. But the moment that we start falling into doubt, we start falling into questioning whether it's going to happen, that's when we start pushing it away.
Yeah, it's like moving in two different directions.
Right, yeah, or giving contradictory orders.
You're trying to move forward, and your fears are pulling you back.
It's like going into a restaurant, placing an order, and saying, no, I guess I don't really want that.
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
That sounded good 5 minutes ago, but no.
Let me give you another exciting or a very amazing example from the Islamic teachings, is that Allah has commanded us that to supplicate and ask Him to fulfill our dreams or attend to our needs with the belief and certainty that He will attend to those prayers without having any sense of doubt or skepticism. And actually, Allah says that believing in the fact that Allah will answer our prayers is part or a reason or perhaps an element that giving us more chances to have our prayers answered.
Okay, so essentially, I'm sorry.
If you want to read that part, there is an ayah or a verse in the Quran that says, and when your Lord said, no. Let me recall this correctly.
Take your time.
Because you see, I'm trying to translate the Quran into English, but let me tell you the meaning of it is that we have to pray to Allah and supplicate to Allah with certainty that He will answer our prayers. So it's a command actually to have this sense of belief and this certainty. Whereas if we ask Allah with a bit doubt or skepticism, I don't know whether Allah will answer my prayers or not, this is not good. Mm-hmm. So it's part of our faith and part of our Islamic teachings. So if you can understand how I related the law of attraction to Islam, you will find it making a lot of sense.
One of the concepts that is often taught by law of attraction teachers is the idea that as you hold thoughts in your mind, as you hold wishes in your mind, you do so in the present. You keep yourself in the present tense, exactly, so to speak. And you try to avoid falling into the trap of what happened in the past, because that's where you lead yourself astray. That's where you start forgetting what it was that you're really trying to do, and you start falling into, oh, this happened, and oh, that happened, and on and on and on. That's where you start getting into the doubt. It sounds similar to what you're describing.
To a great extent. I mean, we might have some differences that has to do with the wording or giving something an absolute meaning or just taking part of it. This is the kind of dissimilarities you may find between the Islamic thought and the law of attraction. But generally speaking, having a positive approach and positive attitude in life is a highly commended matter in Islam. I mean, in Islam, Muslims or a sound Muslim character should have the power to forgive itself. I mean, we shouldn't keep torturing ourselves for past mistakes. I mean, we should repent and everything, and this is present in all religions. We have to repent if we fell into some sin or the other. Mm-hmm. But we have to have this eagerness and this power and ability to be able to forgive ourselves. I mean, we shouldn't torture ourselves for past mistakes or kept overwhelmed with very, very prolonged plans and future plans that makes us absent in this very present moment that needs every potential we have. So we have to remain fixed in our present, to be able to employ all our talents or our potential to make our dreams come true and actually go about them eagerly and strongly.
Yeah, that sounds very, very similar, no doubt about it. As I was preparing for this interview, I tried to do a little advanced research, as I normally try to do, and I found something. I think it was at one of these public websites, maybe about.com. I can't remember which one it was, but
About.com.
Yeah, I think it might have been, but
Okay.
I think, but somebody. The point is that somebody who apparently was Muslim posted the question: is the law of attraction? What's the word? Haram? Is haram forbidden? Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Is the law of attraction
Haram is
forbidden?
Yeah.
Is the law of attraction forbidden in Islam? And if it was a Muslim who said that, I figure, well, let's bring that up here so you can address that.
Well, you see, first of all, I need to give you some advice on a personal level. Don't believe everything that's said on social network.
Oh, I don't believe any of it. But that's why I bring it up, just to explore it, to see what it is.
I understand. To get an idea what Muslims think, I understand. But the thing is, I always separate between Islam and Muslims, because we human beings have our flaws and our drawbacks in thinking and in practice and everything.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, true. And whereas Islam is fixed and it's perfect, and we cannot draw any comparison between Islam that's unchangeable and human flaws. And actually, we are all victims to some misconceptions in one way or another. But if you want to have an answer for this specific question, people need to employ their thinking, even in Islam. I mean, modern and contemporary and rising matters in life pertains that we have to think. Why is something haram and why is it halal or permissible? Whatever that's good for human beings, unless it contradicts with the law, with the Islamic law, it's absolutely permissible and actually commended to adopt. In the case of the law of attraction, if people thought of it as some absolute law or a physical law that produces direct results, this is absolutely haram. But if we thought of it as an approach and as a positive way of living and thinking, then it's absolutely permissible. And the proof is the examples that I've been giving you over the past few minutes from the Quran and from the Sunnah. That's the sayings and the teachings of the Prophet.
Can you be more specific about a couple of those sayings that might be pertinent to what we're talking about right here?
Sure. For example, the Hadith Qudsi that says, "I am as my servant expects me to be," it relates directly to the law of attraction in conception. I mean, if you adopted positive thinking of Allah, that He will aid you, that He will support you, then absolutely He will up to this expectation you're thinking or you're having in your mind and heart. Whereas you applied skepticism and doubt, even in expecting Allah to aid your pursuit or your plans, then absolutely He would prove your thinking correct.
Okay.
This is one. Would you like me to elaborate more on that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Let me tell you. Part of our faith, Muslims, is to have absolute trust in Allah's wisdom. Okay. So if we are planning or having some dream and we need Allah to aid our pursuit in it, of course, if it's something that causes no harm and it has nothing to do with inflicting any disorder in life, then absolutely Allah will aid us. So we have to imbibe this thinking in ourselves, because by the law, Allah has told us that He will be up to our expectations. So imbibing positive thinking in our minds and positive belief in our heart will actually prove the two correct. And the opposite is true.
All right, very good.
Okay, this is one example. Another example, for example, the book The Secret mentioned about gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
It talked about gratitude, and that imbibing a sense of gratefulness and gratitude actually brings forth more positive and pleasant events. Is that true?
Yes, absolutely true.
Let me recall some verse from the Quran that says, "And when your Lord said, if you are grateful, I shall increase my favors upon you." Can you see the relation?
There is a similarity there. Yeah, it's not quite the same, but it's similar.
I think maybe the wording and the way it's presented, it's different. But at the heart of it, there is great encouragement on both sides to apply positive thinking and certainty in everything you do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that definitely seems to be the one strong, compelling consistency between the two philosophies.
Yeah, exactly. And third example has to do with supplicating and praying to Allah. Allah has commanded us to apply certainty in supplicating and praying to Him, and making it a very strong element that causes this prayer or such prayers to be answered. Allah has commanded us Muslims to apply certainty in praying to Him. So
Right.
this is one element or one part or section of Islamic thinking that relates much to the law of attraction.
Slightly different point. How would you say? Well, first of all, how much has the Islamic world paid attention to this whole concept of the law of attraction, and to whatever extent they have paid attention, how much has it been accepted, do you think?
I cannot give you precise statistics if this is your question.
No, I can't. I'm not asking for statistics, but I was just looking for a general sense.
General sense, Muslims like other people, they are categorized to different sections of social levels and social thinking, and they present different trends of thought, even if they are Muslims. Some people are exposed to different cultures. Some people don't want to be exposed to different cultures. So it depends whether people are ready to read and think and analyze new matters or not. So some people I've been reading about self-development for years. So this is perhaps what readied my mentality to accept new thinking, and having interest in Islamic studies and reading more about Islam helped me to establish the relation and actually analyze what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And this is why I read about the law of attraction and The Secret with a bit analytical eyes to judge it and to evaluate whether it's a concept that we have to adopt in our lives as Muslims, or we should refrain from it. So some people had this chance, some people don't. Some people are a bit more comfortable with the idea that we shouldn't borrow any external or any Western thinking, if that's your question. And some people they're fine with getting exposed to different cultures and have the ability to judge what is to be acceptable and what shouldn't.
I think one of the both advantage and disadvantages of living in the West is that it's both. I can't really say that it's either an advantage or a disadvantage. Is that Western culture is very much picked up around the world, but within the West, we get very little information about what goes on in other places around the world. So it's like a one-sided thing in terms of we feel like our culture is known, but we know very little about the other culture. And I think that's why for many Americans and even for many Westerners, there isn't a whole lot that we understand about Islam and Islamic cultures, so we do tend to think of it as a monolith because we don't have any differentiation. And I'm glad that we're having this conversation today, because that perhaps helps to fill in some gaps and create some understanding for people in the West.
That's why I was telling you a while ago that we have a lot of homework to do.
Yes, right.
There's a lot of interreligious dialogue and intercultural dialogue that we need to engage in to establish common ground and know more about the two poles of the world. I mean, if we tend to divide the world to Muslims and non-Muslims, then it makes a lot of sense to meet and speak and discuss new matters.
Because ultimately, that's how common understanding is found. And once you find common understanding, then peace becomes much easier, good economics becomes easier, social cooperation becomes easier, everything becomes easier.
Exactly. Even if we accepted our differences, I mean, we cannot know what's different and what's similar between us unless we talk and speak and actually analyze new matters, or actually matters that are at the heart of our religion and your religion. If we thought of the matter in a reversed way, there are some Westerners who are eager to know about Islam and learn about Muslims, and some are not.
That's right.
It's the same way for Muslims. Some Muslims are eager to explore what's beyond their surroundings and what's going on other sides of the world, and some are not. Some do have the mentality and have the ability in terms of knowledge and acceptance. Some have this ability to explore new matters and judge it, and some don't, and that's why they prefer not to get too much into matters they don't know much about.
And I would imagine that there's a similarity between those in the West who are resistant and those within Islam who are resistant, in that, at least from my point of view, the people who are resistant are very, very often operating and thinking from a position of fear. They aren't really thinking from a perspective of, I can learn something, I can get new information, but rather, oh no, I don't dare know anything about that. I'm afraid of what could happen out of it. Is that also what you would perceive?
I see fear as one element, and I see other elements as well. Perhaps it's old experiences, previous experiences that perhaps were transmitted through other people, not really personal experiences. Perhaps it's lack of knowledge. Some people who, for Muslims, even Muslims, some of them don't know much about Islam, and that's why they prefer not to get into stuff and into matters and conceptions that they wouldn't know how acceptable or unacceptable they are to Islam. If I mean. And on the other side, if we thought of Westerners as driven by fear, so they don't want to know about Islam or about Muslims, this is one element, and ignorance or lack of knowledge is another element, because some Westerners, they don't want to believe everything that's said through the mainstream media, and some people do believe in what's being related about Muslims, and they are fine with it. So it has to do partially, it has to do with the personal makeup of the person, and it has to do with fear, as you've said, or previous experiences, or widespread misconception.
And plus, you mentioned Western media. Western media are known to give, in a sense, both sides. They are known to present perhaps a positive view of Islamic culture, but they are also known to give very negative views of Islamic culture, and to perhaps even draw lines and draw conclusions that aren't accurate. So it can happen both ways within Western media. I suspect probably similar things happen in Islamic media too.
And in Arab or Islamic media, of course, we lack some drawbacks, but Western media tends to tailor or present a very negative picture about Muslims, and this perhaps what causes many Westerners or non-Muslims to refrain or even fear the experience of even learning about those people, or actually holding a very negative view of them. Whereas if we try to explore take it upon ourselves to explore and go beyond what's being said in the media, I'm sure we will establish a very strong common ground.
One of the best things that has happened, of course, to make that kind of communication possible is the advent of the Internet. In fact, we are communicating by the Internet. I'm in the United States, you're in Egypt, and we're carrying on this very lovely conversation via Skype, recording it for broadcast.
It's a great invention.
It is. Then, of course, this is the social media. Social media has played a tremendous role in terms of individuals connecting with individuals, and that whole thing, I think, that whole, I'm not sure what to call it, the whole construct of the Internet strikes me as being a terrific medium through which the kind of communication we're talking about here, the kind of dialogue we're talking about here, can actually continue to grow and evolve in a way that means we no longer have to depend upon the large media outlets to filter the information for us. We can actually reach out and talk to people directly, and I see that as being a huge positive.
Exactly. you see, if we read much in the Islamic history, we will see a lot of good examples of coexistence between Muslims and non-Muslims. I mean, during the time of the Prophet in Medina, there were different sects living together. There were Muslims, non-Muslims, Jews. They lived in harmony together. And if we try to recall these qualities of coexistence, I'm sure we'll do a great job in this worrying world.
Oh, yes. Well, that's the key, isn't it? One of the things that Law of Attraction teachers teach is if you focus on being anti-war, or if you focus on being anti-drought, or if you focus on being anti-poverty, you get more war, drought, and poverty. Whereas what you really need to focus on is being pro-peace. You want to be focusing on being pro-plenty. You want to be focusing on pro-good weather, whatever it might be.
You know, in my view, a very striking element of the law of attraction is the sense of belief, because this having a sense of belief in any matter helps you to employ your full talent and your full potential and direct it in this direction. I mean, I know, I want, I believe I can do something. I will avail the tools. I will learn more about it. I will do more effort. I will employ my best qualities ever to get this done. So it's very positive. It's very encouraging, and it helps one adopt a very positive view of life and employing his talent and learning more about whatever he wants to achieve in life.
So if we have, I presume we are going to have quite a few Muslim listeners listening to this, because I know we already have quite a few in the audience already.
Okay.
If any of them are listening, and let's say there are some who are still unsure about how far to go with this, and what they should do within their own lives, whether or not they should keep it at arm's length, whether or not they should adopt any of it, what can you tell them? Give them some sort of an idea of what you would recommend in terms of how they might go about deciding how and when to incorporate this into their lives.
That's an excellent question, actually. I would advise them to forget about the past and just be present. Have hopes for the future and everything, but just be fixed in their present. Have full trust in Allah. Dream like they never did before, and employ their full power and full talent to direct it in whatever direction they want to walk in. Without any sense of fear, without any doubts or any sense of skepticism. This itself will help them to learn, explore new horizons, have no fears, have very positive view of life. And this is some of the best qualities a human character can employ to live a better life.
All of us, when we attempt to apply any kind of philosophy in our lives, we run into times where we begin to think, well, gee, is this really working? Is this really effective? And those are the times when we are most challenged to be true to our beliefs. What can you tell to our audience about how to handle those times?
It's good not to get too much overwhelmed with the results. And that's why I'm asking people, or I'm inviting people to live their present. If they have a plan, or they have a wish, or they have a dream, for example, I need to have more money, I want to have my business more prosperous, just employ your full talent and full potential to get this done. And don't think about the results, because jumping into judgment and conclusions and predicting what the results will be is what causes us to fear and to have these doubts that things will not work out well. However, of course, we have to deal by logic, do our homework, pray, have trust in Allah, and have trust in our abilities that things will go fine. But just don't jump into the results part. Don't think about the results, and don't get too much involved in what's going to happen a year after now. Deal by logic, avail the tools, and go about your dreams profusely and strongly.
And that, of course, is the big advantage to living in the present, because when you live in the present and you stay in the present, you're no longer worried about what happens in the future or what happened in the past, because you're all focused, all consumed with what's happening right now. That's your world right there.
Exactly. And you have a better way of thinking and analyzing matters without being pulled to the past or pulled to the future. You're fixed in the present. You are capable of analyzing the elements surrounding you and the happenings of everyday life. And you are more focused on what you should do now, not a year before, or what you should do a year after.
Recently, I interviewed an American named Steve Rizzo, who is a comedian turned motivational speaker. And he was very much emphasizing the same idea of living in the present. His idea is, especially when you run into difficult times and you find yourself being drawn to the past or drawn to ideas that don't really serve you, to look at particularly the painful parts of those things going on and ask yourself, what's the humorous side of it? In other words, in any kind of bad situation, you can always find something that's a little bit absurd about it and then focus on that instead and use that as a way to get yourself back into the present. And I was just wondering what your reaction was going to be. I heard a little laughter there, so I get a sense of it. But what do you think of that?
Well, people who have this sense of humor have a very unique way of dealing with difficulties. And they're usually they prove to be very stronger than we think of them. I mean, we think of people who always joke and make fun of things, that they're not really fixed in their present, whereas they have this very sense of humor and this light manner in dealing with difficulties, and usually it works.
There's no doubt that humor is one of the easiest ways to break through pain and suffering and so forth, because if you're in the middle of depression or pain or suffering or grief or whatever it might be, and humor gets involved in it, all of a sudden all of the blackness starts to go away.
Exactly. And my advice with regards to difficulties, and we all go through difficult times, and we all go through some calamities that pulls us down, and we tend to wonder if you're going to remain in such difficulty forever. But my advice is that always think that you are above such difficulty and that you are stronger. Having this certainty and this belief in your strength just helps you to go through it and perhaps get over it within a day.
Right, getting through it, that's really a very key point, I think, because the big mistake we will tend to make as human beings is we will tend to not get through it, but actually live within it. That's where everything starts to get really bad, because we don't emerge from it to the other side. But whereas getting through it means passing through it until you're done with it and can put it behind you, and now you're no longer living in it.
Sure. I would like to recall a very pleasant saying of one of the late scholars of Islam. His name is Sheikh Sha'rawi, if you heard of his name. He used to say that the Muslim who wants to be sad and lives in sadness, Allah will give him more reasons to be sad. So if you want to keep fixed in your difficulty and live the sadness forever, you will just stay where you are forever.
And that's something that anyone from any religious belief or even from a non-religious belief, we can all identify with it. When we're in a particular period of our life and a certain thing is happening, and we keep focusing on it and we keep paying attention to it, it just seems like more and more of it continues to happen. It's a very, very consistent pattern that all of us experience.
Let me give you an example. The human mind or the human intellect is usually alert to that which is familiar with it. I mean, for example, I'm an Arab and I'm in a community or at a market that speaks only English. If one single word is uttered in Arabic, it will immediately attract my attention. Because I'm alert all the time to any word that's going to be said in Arabic, because this is my thinking, this is my culture, this is me. Same way, if I'm applying a positive view of life and I'm living a positive experience with life, I'm having a positive experience with life, I will just be alert to any positive tool that will help me achieve my dreams or my goals.
That's a great point, because another thing that anybody who has tried to walk the path of positive thinking and positive relations with others and so forth notices that the more that we retain a happy, joyful, positive outlook on life, the more good stuff comes our way, the more good opportunities we see, the more
Sure.
people we meet who help us to achieve goals, and people we never thought were going to appear, and then all of a sudden there they are, and wow, where were they 20 minutes ago? That kind
Sure.
of thing. It happens all the time, and I've noticed in particular, even as I started doing this project, creating the LOA Today radio show with my wife Louise, we both noticed as we've taken every single step along the way, new horizons open up that we never even thought of, that never even occurred to us, that could
Sure.
possibly be out there.
Personal experience provide a totally different view of any matter. So if you talked with one person about happiness, you will get totally different views or perception than what you would get from another person. Personal experience is rich, is very true, very honest, and explores totally different horizons.
And it leads to more of the same. That's the part that's really cool, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've been going on here for quite some time here, exploring some of the similarities between the law of attraction and Islamic religion and what many, or at least what perhaps some Muslims think. Before we leave, well, first of all, I wanted to ask you a little bit more about your organization, MuslimTribune.org. Tell us about what that's all about, what it is that you are trying to accomplish with it, and so forth.
Okay, the Muslim Tribune, I established this website or portal a couple of years ago, and it was my dream, by the way. And if you have time to listen how the whole thing was launched, you would relate to what we've been saying over the past hour or so.
Oh, okay.
It was a dream. Yeah, I've been working in the field of online media for some 10 or 12 years. And at the same time, I've been very much interested in reading about Islam and Islamic studies. So I once thought of establishing something that would be non-profit. At first, the idea wasn't to have it as non-profit, but this is how things went. But my dream was to establish a media center or a portal as it came out, whereas Muslims would present their views of all contemporary issues to establish some sort of common ground between Muslims and non-Muslims to be able to meet and speak. Because I'm sure people in the West or in non-Muslim societies don't know much about us. And at the same time, we Muslims need to present our own view of matters, to have a platform where we can express our ideas and perhaps explore new areas of Islam that haven't been much explored or tackled. So this was the whole idea about the Muslim Tribune. I had the idea. I went to a couple of my friends and I told them, do you think I can do this? So their remark and their answer was really positive and encouraging. Yes, Maha, we're sure you can do this and you're the right one for it. And of course, I made a lot of dua and supplication, asking Allah to aid me all the way through. So I just threw and put aside all the fears possible, and I went about the project strongly, like I never did with any other dream or any other plan in my life. The whole project or the whole entire portal is operating on volunteer basis. I mean, all the writers are not paid. The artwork is prepared by a graphic designer who is not paid. The pictures are provided mostly by professional photographers who are not paid as well. So the whole thing is positive and vivid.
That is very fantastic. How has it been received so far, the website itself?
Sorry?
How has it been received by the public?
The thing is, the challenge is I'm operating it from Egypt, and at the same time it's presented in English language, so it's capturing traffic from the Western world, not from Egypt.
Oh, okay.
It happened that I've been studying and learning and writing in English, so I thought English is the universal language, so we have to present whatever message that we seek to reach out to the whole world or most part of the world, to present it in English. So it's capturing traffic from Russia, from the States, from UK and other European states, including Malaysia and India and other Asian countries.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you've started something that is, like many projects, it's kind of taking on a life of its own, and to a large extent, you're trying to find out which direction it's going next rather than trying to define it for it.
Well, actually, I'm not thinking what's going to happen next year, but I'm fine with what's happening now.
Okay. Well, that's a good thing, too.
Yeah.
Well, Maha, Youssuf, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been very enlightening to explore what you've had to tell us about Islam and the similarities with the law of attraction and so forth. And I would say let's continue this dialogue on an ongoing basis because I think it's a terrific thing.
Thank you, Walt. It's a great opportunity to discuss the matter from an Islamic perspective, and it was my pleasure talking to you, actually.
We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.